Hi everyone, I'm John Fenzel. I'm here in Normandy, France at Pointe du Hoc, the site of the D-Day landings almost 75 years ago on June 6, 1944. Earlier I had tried to do this as a Facebook Live broadcast, but I was in a bunker, so the connectivity was low and the winds outside are extremely high today. So I'm going to try to do at least part of this from the car and tell you the story of what transpired here. Many of you are already familiar with it, and it's an important story because it's here that you had some of the most formidable defenses, coastal defenses that were threatening the American landings on Omaha Beach. Right here, they were capable of engaging targets both at sea, but then also firing directly down on all of our troops that were landing at Omaha Beach, but then also at Utah Beach as well. So the guns were thought to be 155s with a range of about 25,000 yards. So Pointe du Hoc was a prime U.S. target, probably the most important target, and so it was bombed incessantly, day and night, far more than any of the other targets. 3 days before D-Day, and then also on June 5th, the day before the invasion. It was also deemed such an important target that the mission was given to the 2nd Ranger Battalion to capture Pointe du Hoc. In order to be able to do that, they would have to climb and scale these cliffs that went 100 feet straight up. So you had on the beaches these concrete obstacles and emplacements, a lot of which were connected by tunnels and walkways, and then you had trenches and machine gun nests all along the perimeter, and they were all manned by the 716th Coastal Defense Division that consisted of about 200 men, Germans and non-Germans alike. But the commander of the assault was Lieutenant Colonel James Rudder. Rudder was from Texas, and he decided that he would be personally leading the assault, much to the chagrin of a few generals who told him he couldn't. And he basically told them, it's my way or the highway. This probably is not going to happen unless you let me do this. And so they did. They let him do it. And what's interesting about this is that he did a lot of their training at the Isle of Wight and on the cliffs there. But once they got here, they were actually late in getting to Pointe du Hoc. And the reason that they were late was because the tide had taken them way, way far east. And then, as a result of that, too, Colonel Rudder had confused another point that was further down the coast, Point per se, as being Pointe du Hoc. And so once he realized his mistake, he turned all the landing craft around, but already he had lost 3 of his 7 landing craft. They had sunk, and they had lost a lot of the men that were in there because of the loads that they were carrying, and then also because of how fast those landing craft went down. So for those men that were in the landing craft that were still afloat, they were very, very hurriedly bailing water with their steel, with their steel helmets. They had come under direct enemy fire, withering fire along the way, and that was coming in from the trenches that were on the beach. But the minute Colonel Rudder's landing craft hit the beach, that's when he set up his headquarters, and he put an American flag there. There's a famous picture that I'm going to try to find and post that here as well. But that marked the spot, and then simultaneously with that, you had First Lieutenant Sidney Salomon that also hit the beach with his 39 men, and their job was to clear these trenches. They did so, but it was at a very, very heavy cost. Only 9 of his 39 men survived, him included, and he received the Silver Star for that action. But all along here, you had the beaches that were heavily cratered from all of the naval and air bombardment. A lot of that came from the USS Texas that was bombing here, and then part of the other effect here, which was unexpected, was that the Rangers had these rocket-propelled grappling hooks, and so the minute the Rangers hit the beach, they headed straight to the cliffs. They tried these rocket-propelled grappling hooks, but they weren't working because the ropes had become so saturated with seawater. So they went off with their contingency plan then, and and it was just basically ladders and daggers all the way straight up to the top of this of these cliffs. But by this time, the Coastal Defense Division was completely ready for them. They were following all their movements, and what they had done is that they had placed these 240 millimeter shells on top of the cliff, and you know, at 100-yard intervals, and then for their forward deployed troops, they had placed these. They had given them all hand grenades, lots of them, and so all they had to do was just lob these hand grenades right down the cliff, right on top of the Rangers that were scaling the cliffs, and so it was complete chaos, complete confusion. All this time, you still had the naval bombardment going on above, but the Rangers just kept on climbing, and they once they got to the top, they had seen that a lot of the German defenders had vacated the area, but those that had remained, those stubborn few, were completely annihilated. So at this point, Colonel Rudder decided to split his small command into two. The first group would defend Pointe du Hoc and stay in place, and then the other would go find the guns. They found 5 of those 6 guns, and there was a Ranger sergeant. His name was Leonard Lumel. He, along with Sergeant Jake Kuhn, found these 5 guns that were behind a hedgerow in an orchard, well camouflaged, and so they took thermite grenades, destroyed those guns, and for that action, Leonard Lumel received the Distinguished Service Cross. Also, in this orchard, General Omar Bradley set up his command post on June 9th, and then Eisenhower finally arrived on the beach on June 12th, and there they had a lunch of C and K rations. So I'm going to attach some of the footage from the earlier broadcast. It might or might not have sound, but the winds were way high. Anyway, a lot of men died here on both sides, and it's hallowed ground. I thought you'd like to know. And here are the names of the Rangers who perished. This is the view of the Coastal Defense Division that was guarding Pointe du Hoc. We'll step outside so you can see the front as well. See formerly a steel door that's been blown apart.